Today, we are going to do the impossible. We are going to make your players enjoy your DM NPCs. Welcome, scholars, storytellers, and fellow babysitter DMs. This is a Level Up Corner, led by yours truly, Wizo, as we delve into all the tips and tricks about Dungeons & Dragons. And today's topic is how to make good DM NPCs. Now you might be wondering, Wizo, do you mean how to make tolerable DM NPCs or how to not make DM NPCs? No, my friends. I am saying how to make good DM NPCs. And I understand that reaction. I really do. DM NPCs are usually very problematic. What happens with... Well, before we get into what happens, let's go over what a DM NPC is. While Dungeon Masters make normal NPCs, non-player characters, such as the Fruit Vendor 37, or Lila who runs the bar, or even Shady Quest Giver in the corner, you might have a bit more detail to those characters, but even so, they are just there to be in the scene. Once the players leave, the NPCs vanish, and they might make a reoccurrence here and there if the players want to see them. If they're part of the greater plot, they may stick around for a bit longer, but they're just NPCs that are cast aside. DM NPCs are those that stay with the party. Now, this causes a lot more problems, because not only do they stay with the party, but usually they are integrated into it. They are a part of the party. This means that they have much higher power than other NPCs. They are in the day-to-day of the party, and they could possibly even have the ability to make decisions, which we're going to talk about that later. But when us DMs get to play such characters, there is a potential problem that comes out. See, most DMs out there are forever DMs. We don't get to play D&D. We don't get to be in the player's shoes. What is this myth that you're speaking of? But no, we never get to be players. And some DMs decide to be players through their NPCs in their own games. They get to be the center of attention, just like the players are. They get to do things that are amazing and wonderful, and this is already very problematic. Because that player character, or that non-player character, why we call them DM NPCs, is an NPC of the DM. The one who has made the adventure, the one who has made the puzzles, the one who has done everything. And also, most likely, the person who knows the most about D&D. So if you combine all that together, generally you make a character that is busted. A character that, since, God playing this character, might gain some favoritism by magic items or other things. Thirdly, knows what the what's coming up, what the answer is to riddles and plots and everything else. And this is very problematic, because when that DM NPC gives an opinion, well, the opinion's possibly worth more than the entire party. Why? Well, if I say we should go left instead of right, and it's literally from God, and you all know it's from God, you're probably going to go left, no matter how much everyone else wants to go right. So there are issues with DM NPCs. And DM NPCs usually end in disaster. And that's because it comes from the place of a DM wanting to be a player character. And that's awful. That causes so many bad things. And we need to get that out of our mind. That is not how you make a DM NPC. And we will go over how to make a DM NPC that your players not only like, but love. As most of my players, I think all the time I've actually had DM NPCs, they have been universally loved by the party. Now, the first part of making a good DM NPC is to ask this question. Why am I making a DM NPC? There has to be a reason, and it cannot be the reason of, well, I just want to play a character, I just want to be the center of attention. No, that's a bad reason. You need to be 100% honest with yourself and ask, why am I making this NPC? If you are making an NPC for a practical reason that was requested specifically by the party, then this is the time to do so. Or if it is sort of an escort quest. Now, or we'll go over the two different variants in a sec here, but when the players are missing something is a great time to introduce an NPC. This is a DM NPC. This is one of those times where it's completely okay to do so. The players, there are 3 of them, and they're all ranged. None of them want to be melee, and they all feel that this is going to end in disaster if they don't have a meat shield. If they don't have that frontliner to take the damage. Or even if they have a rogue, that rogue's going to tank, which may not, the rogue may not be tanking for long. So instead of having a circus act of trying to juggle if the party's okay, you should let the players play however they want and feel comfortable. Let them hire someone from the Adventurers Guild. Make Grobnar the Barbarian part of the team. That's a perfectly understandable reason as to why you are making a DM NPC. The second is if the players will need one for long term. Now this can be for an escort quest, such as Irina Koliana and Curse of Strahd. Not really much of a spoiler, but you'll be generally keeping an NPC with you for a while there. Or if you are playing Tomb of Annihilation and the players need a guide, and that guide's going to be with them for the adventure, then they could actually gain power. But how much power is the question? Should they be equal to the players? Greater than? Never greater than. But should they be equal to the players? Now this is an interesting concept. If the character in question is a tag-along, part of an escort quest, let's say a guide, or we'll go even with Irina. You've played video games. You have seen how horrible escort quests have been. Oh, the times that we've failed escort quests because they just shamble, run into things, have no hit points, or are just awful. It's terrible. So you want to make them competent. You want to make it so that when they find that character at level 1 or 2, that character has a wand of cure wounds. Pretty nice for the beginning. Or that they have some of their capabilities that the party lacks, such as tracking, knowledge of the area, etc. But it doesn't stop there, because they're going to have those characters have to defend themselves. And in order to do so, they need to have some power. My recommendation is, as the party levels for tag-along DM NPCs, make sure that they are 2 levels below the party. This is a giant power drop from what the party is, but they're still not paper. They're not squishy, and they're not completely annoying to have around. They have capabilities. It's just not what you'd want for that. So they're not the greatest in the world. Now for the one that is with the party, Grobnar, whatever the barbarian was. We're going to say he's Grobnar, or change his name, why not? If it wasn't changed. If it was, then I'm amazing and beautiful. But Grobnar goes with the party, and since he is fighting with the party, since he is the meat shield, he should be the same level. Now, the reason why this is the case is because if you are lower level, you have lower HP, you become a liability, you don't have the skills or abilities for what the players are looking for, and it's not great. So if this is a actual member of the party, such as Grobnar your meat shield or Healbot the cleric, then they should be the same level as the party. But building your NPCs is not all we have to go over. You need to go over how they will interact with the party. See, this is a problem that many other DMs have with their DM NPCs. Your DM NPCs, to 1, not be leaders. When the decision comes on what we should do, should we take that right or left? Should we go to the castle, or should we go to the hill? Should we get reinforcements? Should we go to that bad guy? They're indecisive. They don't really know, and they're not able to make that decision. It could be because they are a little withdrawn or shy, unable to really do so. It could be that they're very unsure of themselves. It could be that they are just dumb For example, when the party tries to make a plan and they say, all right, we need to kill the dragon, you say, yeah, we should go in and we should say, here's some rolls, and then steal his stuff like we did with the people in the village. It's like, it's a dragon. It's like, yeah, it worked last time on people, so it'll work on a dragon. Like that probably won't work out very well. So they just know outright your opinion. You have an opinion, but it's stupid, so we're gonna discount it. Or if someone is shy or withdrawn or has some other problems, then they have an opinion, but it's not trustworthy. A great way to make it not trustworthy is to make them be very reliant upon dice. If there is a right or left, instead of saying left or right for whatever reason, because even if you're a DM NPC legitimately has their own reasons, and they want to go left, the party will think, oh, the DM wants us to go left. So a great way to get around this is to use dice to try to make decisions. They force you to vote, to try to stay out of voting, or tell them that right before they have that DM NPC vote, guys, girls, whatever, this NPC is its own individual and has their own personal opinions, preferences, and everything else. They will not lead you toward the correct destination. They will give you a opinion based on what they want, and as a DM, I'm going to tell you that their decision is potentially more wrong than right. And that already puts it off kilter to where they don't think this DM NPC is now this highly elevated opinion compared to everyone else. They're like, oh, this might actually be lower than everyone else's. Oh, we shouldn't ask them as to what they're doing. And that's something very important. You want to make sure your DM NPCs are not able to influence the party overall decisions. They do not have a real input. Their input is completely invalid, and you are not the center of the attention. The story is not on your DM NPC. The story is on the players. That DM NPC is there just to be there. And the third is to make it so that your DM NPC is the most fleshed out of all your NPCs. The most alive, the one who is able to really interact with players, have deep conversations with them, and possibly go through their own small little arcs here and there, but in the background. Again, you have a whole bunch of different notes on the world, and you know how sometimes you make a section that has 100% of notes, and the players they uncover that little iceberg, that 5 to 10% of what is actually going on. Well, your DM NPCs can be like that. Don't push your DM NPCs on the players. Only open up with the players, ask them, because again, this is the player story. And in doing so, you want to make the DM NPCs have some endearing traits. It could be that they're the little sister, which is what I kind of have Irina Koliana as. It could be that they're comic relief, which is most of my DM NPCs. For example, I have Snippy, who's just, I want to be a dragon. He's a kobold, and he's just an absolute lovable idiot. There's a lot of these things that you can do to make your DM NPCs not only tolerable, but enjoyable. One optional thing that I would say for DM NPCs, it's for you as a DM to not be super attached to them, is try to find the most brutal and horrific ways to destroy your DM NPC and really go on that roll. But what I mean by this is that think of in a fight. You see that someone is healing the party, right? Well, you're going to kill the healer. So for one DM NPC that I had that was a cleric, they would literally try to go up and shred his legs, like try to gouge out his eyes or whatever. You don't need to go as gruesome as this, but this is something that I would recommend as a DM, is to just pick on that DM NPC. Be like, I hate you, or at least make the world seem like they hate them. Because you can do things to that DM NPC that you would never do to a player. You wouldn't ever just say, oh, you cast a healing spell? Alright, everyone targets you automatically. Which they could do. And I'm not saying do this every time, but this is something that you can do to also loosen up your own personal attachment to that DM NPC. After all, they are an NPC, and they are not as good as the players in the story, or at least not as impactful. And you should never, ever treat that NPC, that DM NPC, as if they are greater than the players. Because the story is about them at the end of the day. Not about you, not about your DM NPC. You are making a wonderful narrative with your friends, and they need to be at the center of it, not this terrible DM NPC. But yeah, that pretty much covers it. 1, make DM NPCs useful. 2, make them be unable to be leaders. And 3, make sure that your DM NPCs are not valued more than party members. In fact, they should probably be valued less. This is how you make not only a good DM NPC, but a DM NPC that your players generally love. Have a purpose as to why you make your DM NPCs. And do not make them out of your own personal, I want to be a player complex. Get in an actual game. Have fun with actual players and be a player then. Don't take the joy away from yours. I hope this has helped you learn how to make some DM NPCs. And if you have any thoughts as to how to make a DM NPC, don't let me be the only one to tell you how to make a DM NPC. Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can stay informed. Lastly, of course, always remember that your players love and appreciate you. So keep rolling, my friends. Keep rolling.